Dave,
I'm
we've
glad
had
that
a
wasn't
lot
that
of
old.
fun over here at the
Yes, we
CCA
have.
workbench, and right now it's time for the Academy Sports and Outdoors.
I'm still a little
Rigs
depressed
and
from
Techniques.
seeing how fat I've got.
Well, you can do something about that.
I
It
guess.
starts tomorrow, but
Yeah.
after we get done eating that cake.
Yeah, right.
So let's talk
That'll
about
help.
sailfish, Dave.
Well, they're a great game fish. They're usually associated with winter sail fishing because back in the 50s, late 40s, early 50s, the sailfish was the king. Him and the tarpon. They pretty much opened up Florida to being the fishing capital of the world, and the sailfish was the king of the East Coast. And all the people come, from the wintertime, they would come down and go fishing for sailfish out of West Palm. And they caught a lot of fish back then, and it's changed a lot over the years how we target them, and different places target them different ways. Down in the Keys, Ms. Stanzik was talking about how they do the kite fishing, and they do that in South Florida all the way up to West Palm. But in the Keys, they also do the run and gun, which they'll see the sailfish showering the ballyhoo, and they'll run over there and throw a live ballyhoo in there and catch them.
Right.
That's a great fun way to do it. And from Miami all the way up to, let's say, Stewart, West Palm Beach, in that area, the sailfish come in close to shore, and they're all in 120 foot usually is where you start. That's like the magic number for me. I always like to start around 120 feet. And between 90 and 150 feet, for a long way, there's a big reef, and the fish will hang on that reef. So the guys who are using kites can easily catch a ton of fish doing that because they don't have to cover a lot of ground. They just drift along that depth range with all their baits out and the live baits, fishing off a kite, which is deadly effective.
Right.
But you don't have to cover, you can't really cover ground other than your drift. So everybody else, we have to troll. And that's what we're going to talk a little bit about, trolling dead baits and using little lures and whatnot, dead bait combos, lure dead bait combos to catch sails, because it still works. And I mean, everybody nowadays will fish naked ballyhoos on a circle hook. I mean, if you're tournament fishing, that's probably the best thing to do. Have four ballyhoos out and your teasers. But to catch a whole lot of different species, and to cover a lot of ground, you're going to need to use baits that can be covered up a little bit. You put a lure like an island tracker on the front of your ballyhoo, either if you're using wire or monofilament. When I say wire, a lot of guys say, oh, you can't catch sailfish on wire, but man, you can. You can. A nice pin rig with number 7 wire, like this is a really effective way to catch them, because I can go 7-8 knots with my ballyhoos, and with my dead ballyhoos with an island lure in front of it, and I can go a long ways and move fairly quickly. And up where I live at the Cape, I can't start fishing until I'm out 20 miles.
Right.
And then I have to look for the fish.
Right.
My 100 to 150 feet is a long ways versus the 100 to 150 feet down in South Florida. So I have to cover a lot of ground, and I need to go quickly. And
so
I have
what
to use
speed are you going to troll that?
Well, I usually troll between 4 to 6 knots if I'm trolling for sailfish.
Right.
A lot of people say, well, you can't go too fast. Sailfish are one of the fastest fish in the ocean. They're not you can't go fast enough not to get a bite from a sailfish. You can get a bite from a sailfish at 18 knots, believe it or not.
Right.
But that's not how you're going to catch all of them. You're not going to catch a bunch of them that way. So you want to slow down to about 4 to 6 knots. If I'm getting bites, I'll slow down even more because I want to stay in that range where they are. I try to find
range meaning depth or area, Dave?
Area.
Okay.
And usually that has a lot to do with the depth, because they don't really once they're in a spot, they like to stay in that kind of range. It can be a temperature thing. It can be a structure thing, like down south on that reef.
Right.
And up where I live, we'll catch them on structure as well.
Right.
But usually up where I live, it's a temperature break that I'm fishing. And that break is usually between 100 and 100 and 300 feet, even all the way out to 300 feet. We can still catch them. But, you can, like I said, you can still use number 7 wire on a pin rig with a regular old O'Shaughnessy hook.
Right.
And just troll your ballyhoos. I like to troll at least one naked on one of the riggers, sometimes 2, and then I'll troll a couple of the island lures short, you know, because I get a lot of bites short. The sailfish are not afraid of the boat. They come right up and eat.
I understand getting about short bites.
Yeah, exactly.